Hello. Hello, can you guys hear me? I think everything is actually unmuted. I'm watching an advertisement of a gecko. Alright, let's see. Okay. Oh my gosh, guys. It has been a really long time, and I have missed you a lot. I think it's been like 12 weeks, which is, forever in Stonehearth time. So, I'm super happy to be here. Hey, Bruno Supremo, and the Ultimate Kenny, and Joe Maxro, and Surrenderez, and Babine3. It is good to see you all. Alright, well, I think the stream schedule has been super exciting for me anyway. I think it's really neat to see everybody streaming, and God knows it is a little bit easier to coordinate this when we only stream once a week, but thank you guys for adjusting to the schedule. Today, I was thinking that we could do some user experience work for some of the upcoming features. So looking ahead, not just to Alpha 22, but to Alpha 23. So let's log in on this computer and see where we are. So, in the meantime, how have you guys been? Do you have any questions about how Stonehearth is going? We just pushed another update of Alpha 21 to Steam Unstable. Half an hour ago we pushed this. It was Carl's first push to Steam Unstable. Linda helped him up to get up and running with that, so that's super exciting. It's actually been really cool, because Carl, Angelo, and Justin all started within the last few months, getting them up to speed slowly with our enormous code base. It's been really interesting seeing the code base again through their eyes, all the weird janky stuff that we have in there that we just don't notice anymore. So that's always exciting. Alright, Janaxer says you have major stuttering on your end. Let's see. We launched an update and start streaming. You want to test things but want to watch the stream too. I suppose you could go ahead and test while watching the stream. Joshua asks, Janaxer asks, how is PAX? PAX was fantastic. We had this amazing community admin come and help us at the booth and help us drive back and forth to the airport and had all kinds of adventures with his breaks. So PAX was awesome. Glad it was resolved for you, Joe Maxro, and glad you've been good, and the Ultimate Kenny, glad that the buildings are finishing for you. I think it's kind of interesting because a lot of people, I think there are buildings that I always feel there's people who build buildings that the building editor knows how to build, and then there's people who build buildings that the building editor doesn't know how to build. Because there's so many people who are like, oh, none of my buildings ever finished, and it's none of them really. Wow, you must just build really differently than I do. And, in all these cases, if you are one of the people for whom building is working, I'm so glad. And if you're one of those people for whom building is not working, please make sure to save your stuff as a template and then send it to us. Chris is actually doing another pass on building right now. So the topology service and a lot of the recent work he's been doing with pathfinding has given him new insights into how to better calculate whether or not a building is buildable. So right now there's a little bit of hey, just cross your fingers and hope that we find a solution to find a technical solution of how to get the Hearthlings to build the building you've constructed, and this would move us much further forward and oh hey, I can tell that place is definitely not reachable from where I am now, so now let me talk about how I might build ladders to get myself there and stuff. So this is actually a really significant rework of the way that we think about building. Another thing that he's currently in the process of examining is whether or not behind the scenes building is actually broken up into floors and walls and roofs, and he's checking out whether or not we might be able to instead think of building more on a slab level behind the scenes and take the building primitives further up so that they're more like a UI concept. The building UI should get better too, but if he can reduce the the constructs for building behind the scenes to slab, then all the different kinds of building pieces should be treated more equally by the building system and hopefully be less brittle and less buggy in general. So that's there's a lot of stuff he's doing right now, and we don't expect any of it to actually land for you guys in quite a while, because like imagine that he's working on like a separate branch. We wouldn't want to impact the existing building system with all of these new improvements that he's making until we're sure that they don't make the existing improvements worse. So anyway, so that's what's going on. Oh, hey, Fishrind. Good to see you. Fishrind. Yes, okay, other things. Jamaxer asks, are the new icons above the Hearthling stats in the Citizens menu intended to be buttons? Because they look like buttons but don't seem to do anything. They do look like buttons and I keep clicking on them. I believe they're supposed to do something, but we have not yet finished that. I think it works maybe on, like... Actually, I take that back. They're supposed to do something. There's a reason that they highlight. Probably they're supposed to sort. Like, that would be cool. But I actually don't know exactly when that will come. I know that Linda actually has a bunch of outstanding changes to that pane. So hopefully when she integrates, maybe we'll get a little bit closer to getting them to work. Music is a bit loud. Okay. One of the things is that the music tracks are not, like, normalized on here. So, like, some tracks are much louder than others. Okay, awesome. Let me know if it continues to be problematic. What are they eventually I think they're supposed to sort so that you can be like, okay, who's the person with the highest body? Who's the person with the highest mind? And then work that way. Okay, so what else? Let's see, I think I will probably also want Adobe Photoshop. Great, thank you. Okay, so what are we doing today? So Alpha 21 has been about traits. Oh, yay! Like, I guess now we can test out if, like... So Ali has left her tablet here, which is super... Whoa. Like, I know how to use a tablet. Seriously? No, I don't. Okay, cool. So in the off chance that we need the tablet, that would also be really neat, because the fastest way to prototype sometimes is just to draw things and then to make it better later. Okay, so where were we? So Alpha 21 is... Alpha 20 and Alpha 21 have been about making your Hearthlings more lovable and making them more individuals. And one of the things, Devine 3 asks, is it normal the traits glutton and pessimist appear the most for me? Hopefully there's a really good random distribution. Like, the stream name may need an update? Huh. My stream name says Stonehearth Dev Stream 264 Workshop UX. So, I don't know. What does it look like to you guys? Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing today. Workshop UX. So Alpha 21 and Alpha 21 has been about traits, about making your Hearthlings distinct from each other. And one of the things that we'd really also like to do is give meaning to those interactions that you see your Hearthlings having. So, for example, when two people stand next to each other and they have a conversation, like, wouldn't it be really nice if that conversation, like, had an impact on their mood, as opposed to being, at the moment, which was purely decorative. Yeah, the last name was Building UX. So, so we're just moving down through all the user experience stuff. So anyway, so that's what Alpha 21 is about. And then we're hoping, we'll see, but we're hoping that Alpha 22 will focus some more on conversations. So making those conversations relevant and meaningful between your Hearthlings. And in order to do that, there's actually quite a bit of work in the back end. The conversations system that exists right now is actually, like, quite complex in the way that it has events, have the Hearthlings, like, fire events so they can talk to each other, and we're looking at seeing if we can make that simpler as we expand it. And it also has a system whereby you can specify conversations, like, person A plays this animation, then person B plays this other animation, and it would be really cool if that could be more spontaneous and, like, go together like jigsaw puzzles. So we're gonna look at adding meaning to that in Alpha 22. But beyond Alpha 22, there's actually... So, like, all of Stonehearth, all of this year, a lot of this year has been dedicated to going back and improving the existing systems that we have. So like you can see traits and happiness and conversations as an effort to make Hearthlings really good individuals. And the next set of systems that we want to take a look at involve the economy. So right now the economy is a little bit flat. Like you get all of your recipes like when your carpenters level up, when your crafters level up, and there's not much to do. Like there are items that are decorative and then there are items that are functional, and that's pretty much it. So we would like to we would like to improve the economy so that, first of all, each item has more meaning and affects more systems, and so that you get your items in a more natural and realistic fashion instead of just sort of like getting them all at once. Music got loud again. It must be that these songs are just like super non-normalized. Like at some point there's going to be a like you know what, okay, let me just like pause the music if that's easier. But that's kind of interesting. It's like we really need to do an audit of these, like this track, to find out what is going on. Let me also check what's up with our audio settings here, if there's something that's like the volume range is 100. You know what, maybe the audio, oh, I think I know what it is. Okay, so the audio for the computer is really high, so maybe that is causing your audio to be really high too. So if I make the audio for the computer lower and I keep talking, like if I keep talking and the music is on again, can you still hear me? In order to ascertain this, I suppose I would have to keep talking. So like the music is so low that I can no longer actually hear it. Okay, let's try this and see how that works. This is so much better? Okay, so we've brought the audio down so that it is now at 25%, and maybe that's it. Okay, so far so good. Just yell if something gets bad again. Okay, so effort-based crafting is a design that Richard is working on, and the idea there is that each workshop should have like a score associated with it. Like, is it a like really low-level workshop? Is it like a well-fortified, well-lit, comfy workshop? Is it like a master craftsman's workshop? And he's designed a system for having different things in the world augment the workshop. So for example, if we take a look at the first spec that he wrote back this way, you can see that this approach replaces the current crafting economy, which relies on a discrete number of animations for an item to complete, by switching to an effort-based system. So instead, when you're crafting stuff, instead of the recipe saying, hey, run this animation 5 times, like we could maybe do something that's like, hey, run the animation a certain number of times based on the score of the workshop, the score of the crafter, and how these play with each other, so that if you add a light to your workshop, or if you add like a decoration or an enhancement or an augmentation, something to your workshop, like that time could go down, or maybe like the likelihood of your making a fine item could go up. Excuse me. So yes, so he's been thinking about this for a while, and it's pretty exciting. So like we want to create a new means of controlling the rate of construction, and the reason why this is so compelling is because it allows, not only does it separate the animation from, like, so in other words, you can make a really short animation and that doesn't immediately cause all the crafting times to get shorter, but it really, for me, it's this, it exposes a new vector along which we can make the crafters and the environments like be affected by the other things in the game. So for example, like I could imagine so many things that could correspond to this. Like for example, you could imagine that you could use the system to be like, okay, make sure that your workstations are as well lit, make sure that your crafters are as well fed, because you know any kind of like situation could theoretically use this system to contribute to the efficiency and the effectiveness of your crafter. Oh yeah, the game has an icon now, and like it looked super super unfinished that it was the default Windows icon. So a while back, Mally made like maybe even almost like a year ago, Mally made a vector version of the Stonehearth logo, and so Carl took the S and cut it up into, or resized it for all the different Windows things. If Windows is not his favorite operating system, so if you guys play it and see that the logo looks weird or something, like on Windows 8's Tile View or something, let us know. Okay, hey the Reed Panda, good to see you. Alright, so I would like to make a UI that supports this system so that you can tell when it is that a thing augments the workbench so that it's getting better, and so, just so that you know, and so that when you place that thing down, you can know that it helps it, or maybe you can explicitly attach it or associate it with the workbench so that you can say, hey, like, this armor rack is an inspiration to the blacksmith, whatever blacksmith is using this workstation. So in order to make sure that we make the UI in a good way, we should probably review the specs, so we'll do that now. Alright, expose any vector along which we can make environments better, avoid breaking external mods when transferring over to the effort-based system. Yep, all this is good. Probably the primary thing that your mod will no longer necessarily specify or have direct control over is, like, you might still specify how many work units it takes, but like for a recipe, but like that may no longer translate into the number of times that the carpenter saws. Okay. Hey, Ode of the Mountain. Alright, so, all items in Stonehearth that can be crafted have a certain level of effort that's required to create them, the values defined in the associated item recipe, the amount should correlate to the difficulty of making the item. To complete the construction, a crafter must generate an associated amount of effort points while working on the item. Right, okay, so it's sort of like, you imagine that the craft, and this is really good, because at the moment if a crafter is interrupted, all their work on that item goes to waste. So this would be like, okay, hey, like, this is a really important item, like, it takes 50 effort points. I'm only able to put in 2 effort points, like, before a goblin chased me off. But then after the goblin comes back, I can come back and put in the other 48 effort points, and I didn't waste all those ingredients. So when the crafter begins work on a recipe, an in-progress version of the item is created with a current effort level of 0. As the crafter interacts with the workbench, 2 things happen. The crafter plays animations from a set of crafting animations. These animations can be of varying length and style. That's the other reason that this is cool, because Mally has a bunch of animation ideas about how, like, before you start working at your workbench, you might, like, adjust your belt or, like, pull up your sleeves or something like that. And right now, if you added those animations, it essentially increases the cost of making the item. But if there was just, like, a number or a time, then that would be like, okay, play a number of animations that correspond to, like, the length of time needed to craft this thing, and every now and then he can, like, wipe his brow and there's more variation in it. It doesn't just look like he's like an automaton. Okay, then the in-progress item begins to gain effort points. This rate of gain comes from a few different things. A base contribution level from the crafter at the level of the crafter interacting with the bench, the efficiency of the craft station, the stat modifiers, any trade or mood buffs on the crafter. So a hearthling can never contribute less than 0.25 effort points to the craft they're working on. And then here's an equation, which is less relevant for the UI, because if we show this equation inside the UI, I will have failed. So, okay, so let's see. But anyway, it's a max of 0.25 base contribution times the sum of the additive multipliers times the multiplicative multipliers. Okay, cool. The experience level of a crafter has a direct effect on the rate of the effort that's contributed to the object. Craft station efficiency. Craft stations have an efficiency rating which is affected by the following things: a base value for the station, lighting, table durability, environmental, durability. Now that everyone has had their items, like, destroyed constantly in Zelda Breath of the Wild, we maybe, like, can have another talk about durability, but okay, cool. And environmental modifiers. So, like, maybe if there's, like, a dude outside playing a tuba, like, that could be bad. Okay, so, I'm sorry, I just saw Bibian 4's, like, message about doing it. Okay. Do we have a bot here? Yeah. Okay. That's the end of that. Thanks! Awesome! Alright. Hey, Quisters Paul, and Basil 1XA, and the Atomic Burrito. It's just that, like, you know, the do-it stuff, like, it's kind of funny. And then, like, we get to the pirates, and it's like, oh, wow, this is going to a dark place. Alright, anyway, so where were we? Okay, so the craft station. So the craft station has an efficiency associated with it, and the crafter is also bringing something to it. The crafter is, in fact, bringing themselves, their stat modifiers, and their traits and moods. And this is the efficiency of the crafting station. Okay, so base value has a default, lighting, environmental modifiers, stat bonuses, interruption handling, and in progress items. Okay, so great, we get some progress, and then this is what happens. The item uses a generic cubicle model, right? Let's see. In progress item occupies the table for the duration of the job. It prevents anyone but the craft owner from working on it until one of the following occurs. Craft job is completed, crafter associated with the item is no longer valid because he's been reassigned or died or something, and the craft job is cancelled. If 2 or 3 happens, the craft job loses its reservation on the table. The incomplete good can be hauled from the table to the stockpile. If a new attempter attempts to craft the same good, they'll preferentially grab the unallocated in-progress good. Ooh, that's cool. Because some crafting jobs... Wow. Coaster Paul 1. Like, you've never been so chatty. I guess it's bot night. Let's see. Will it be quicker if the crafters used to make something like a chair? And will it be the same for all crafters like the Weaver and stuff? Yeah, so this would be an overhaul, or rather an improvement of the existing crafting system, and it would affect every single crafter. So if we just implemented it, and we implemented it correctly, you would not notice any change. The question is, the minute that we want you to be able to optimize your workbench, then we now need to expose cues so that you know, like, what things will help you and what things, like, will make things more complicated. Okay, so crafters should be able to interrupt their crafting to do other things, give preference to finishing jobs. If a crafter walks away from a reserved workbench, they still have it reserved. Other crafters can't use the bench while a reserved item occupies it. No worries. You can just keep clicking the ban button, eventually it'll come back, right? Okay, supporting items. All crafting tables can be assisted by a certain number of supporting items. These items are separated into 3 size categories, small, medium, and large. Each crafting table can be supported by a limited number of items from each size category, and the number of which can vary from one table to the next. All support items provide a 5% bonus, which gets summed together and then multiplied as a bonus to the efficiency of the bench. A support item is any item that has a crafting association in the JSON file. A support item can be attached to multiple crafting types, though it's typically tied to a singular craft. I'm not sure I understand this sentence, but, like, I suppose it could mean that it's typically tied to a singular craft, so it's like, okay, this is a really inspiring statue of Sid, so it could both augment, like, the weaver and the blacksmith, but typically it's tied to a singular craft. Every support item can only benefit a single crafting table at a time, and they must be in line of sight and in close proximity to that table. A support item that is not currently supporting a table will automatically support one should a table appear in range. If multiple tables are in range, the support item will prefer to support the oldest table. Okay, that's interesting. Players can alter what table a support item is affecting if there are multiple in range. Okay, so this is actually the UI that is really interesting to me, and I would like to pose this to you guys. Like, thanks, Yaman. How would you imagine this UI to be? Like, there could be so many things we could do to make this really, really awesome. So I'm just gonna leave that there for you guys to think about while I continue reading. But really, this is like, because, like, well, yes, anyway, I think that there's a really cool UX opportunity, like, in this highlighted sentence. Okay, so when a player clicks on a bench... Thanks, Stonehearth is the best. Like, who is like these bots are just awesome. Like they've been impersonating all sorts of kinds of interesting people, and like it just makes me want to have them talk to each other. Like, have you guys seen that YouTube stream where the bots are chatting? Anyway, when a player clicks on a bench, they should be able to see how many items of a particular type are supporting them, and those items should be highlighted in the world. Similarly, when a support item is selected, the associated bench it's supporting, if any, should be highlighted. I think, it's like a storm of spam bots. It's like the weather. Okay, so when I'm reading this, the first thing that I think is that it is super important to have a spec on the side that describes like what let's see. Let's do this. So that describes what things you'd want while you were doing this UI. So if we go down through this document again, so like, wait, 3-column layout, let's list all the things that you guys and I think we would need in the UI to support and show the fact that this is going on. So let's see. So the first thing that occurs to me is that crafted items should have some sort of completion bar. Like in progress items. Either in a pop-up or either in a toast in the world. Well, actually, let's talk about what we need, and then we can talk about all the ways that we could show it. So, signifiers. What are the things that show you, the player, that stuff, that this feature is active, and that like we, and that you can manipulate all the pieces of it. So let's just put down goals here. So goals. You should know that manipulating, that optimizing, that placing items and you should know that crafting stations can be optimized based on crafter that not really the crafting, but you should know that crafting operations can be optimized based on the crafter, the workbench, based on the crafter and the workbench, right? Because, like, what affects, it's like, okay, effort generation, here's the effort, like, effort is the crafter interacting at the bench, the efficiency of the station, stat modifiers, and these things, right? So you should know that crafting operations, the game should inform you, should signal that can be optimized based on the crafter, the bench. Really the crafter and the bench, because the stats belong to the crafter, these things belong to the crafter, and this is on the bench. Okay. Reading from here. Let's see. Right, exactly. So when you bring up a table, it should have an element representing the supporting items. Little bubbles in the corner that's showing what's supporting it. Yes. When we're in the workbench, there could be a place with icons representing the things boosting. All supporting choices would be made from the table. Well, except that, like you should probably be able to make supporting choices when you're placing the item down in the world. Also, for a cool tech mod, this whole supporting item systems will make it so much bigger. Hopefully it's not too hard to mod. I hope so. Let's write it with an eye to making it moddable. And though there may be an automatically paired on creation, you can remove a supporting item from a table and would have to in order to pair the supporting item with another table. Yep. Okay, cool. So let's see how much we can get into here. We're not going to finish this spec in half an hour, but like at least, you know, we can go through the opening salvo. And again, this spec isn't for this upcoming alpha, it's for the alpha thereafter. So we're just working ahead here, because I think honestly this UX is going to be pretty tricky. So, okay. I would add a second UX goal, which is that the player should, or you should think about the bench in the language of a fable or fairy tale. You should think about the optimization exercise, not in the language of numbers. Because, like, I know this new Zelda is a departure, but Stonehearth is sort of like halfway between an RPG and a simulation game, and one of the things we try to do in our design is take the numbers and sort of like abstract them into like hearts, or into sections of hearts, or into bars, or into happy faces. Like, you can imagine a completely different UI for Stonehearth that just was like a table, and you're like, okay, here's a table of my hearthlings, and like, oh, their happiness is ranging between 0 and 1, and this one has a happiness of 0.4, and like, clearly there's tons of numbers behind the scenes, but I don't want to stick a big old 24 on top of the Workbench and like have that be the end. Like, it would be much better if the Workbench had like a star rating system, or like reviewed by, like, you know, this is an excellent Workbench, if there's like a word system associated with it. Okay, so what signifiers? An item that is in progress should have some sort of completion bar, signal, so that you can see how much progress has been made and how much is left to go. So ways that we could show this, and this is like a brainstorm, toast over the incomplete item, bar in the workshop UI, like, so sort of like right now it's green, but you can imagine it filling up, green background of in progress item is slowly filling up. Yeah, those would be the good places. Bar in the queue, on the queue tab of the Workbench UI. If there's other things you can think here, let me know. Okay, next up, the experience level of the crafter has a direct effect on the effort, but I feel like you already know what the crafter's level is, based on their, like, you can see what their level is, but there might be a thing, like a statistic that is augmented by, this is in the language of, this is a P0, like, you have to have this, because if you don't have this, you're gonna see a bunch of items sitting on tables and be super frustrated. And also, like, the goal is to dramatically increase the amount of time that, like, really epic items take. So, like stuff is gonna be in progress a lot. Okay, back to here. Good to be ahead. Yes. Hey, Keister, good to see you. Hearth Idol. Ooh. Good night, Basil. Thanks for joining us. There are many good Stonehearth streams. Like, you know, when you're relaxed and happy, like, that is when you fall asleep, right? Oh, it's Germany, it's 3:35 a.m. Thank you for joining us. Okay, cool. Alright, so let's see. This, I think, is a P1 or a P2. Like, show... Crafter should show some sort of indicator that they're in optimal crafting mood. This could tied to an existing stat. So for example, if diligence were the stat that if we nominated diligence as the stat that influenced crafting, then all buffs and traits that wanted to augment this crafting could augment diligence instead. Tied to a new stat, which is invisible. Like, that's always an option. Tied to happiness, which is already visible via the mood UIs. Tied... Let me actually put this first. Tied to a new stat, which is made visible on character portrait on the character screen, made visible on the portrait on the unit frame via icon, tied to a new stat via buff, hover over the buff to get details. So it's like you have the awesome crafting buff. So in other words, we could reuse a system that we already have. We could, which is either like existing stat or buff, or we could add another kind of thing that aggregated the crafting efficiency, or we could choose to not show it at all, and it's just that you can see that this is a person who loves crafting, and so maybe that increases his crafting efficiency, or maybe like he had a thought that increased his crafting efficiency, and that the aggregate total of the crafter's efficiency is not shown at that time. That's why it's a P1. And then finally, this is super important, the craft station efficiency. Probably a P1 because P0 because crafting, because you want to optimize it. Like, crafting stations must show their efficiency stat that it can be, so that you know you're supposed to optimize it. So, what are some ways of showing that this is going on? Ultimate Kenny asks, do you think it could be frustrating to new players to end up crafting slower or with less productivity in general because they're having difficulties keeping the crafter in a good mood? I think that all of the things that we're adding to the game, all of these systems, mood, crafting, like all these ways that Richard is knitting our systems together, could theoretically be frustrating to a new player if the balance of the game is off. Like, if you think about playing something like Civ or Stellaris or even like any RPG, I really do think that your very first playthrough is going to necessarily be kind of painful. Like, and it's not that it has to be painful, it's just that compared to your second playthrough, it is always going to be painful. So like, because, and if the game is balanced correctly, then it'll be slightly painful, but it won't be punishing. And you'll play and you'll constantly be thinking, gee, like, if I could just learn these systems better, if I knew that that was going to happen, then I could have made it more optimal. I'm going to fix that right now, or I'm going to start over and fix it again. And depending on how painful it is, I think it pushes people toward either optimizing in their existing game or starting over. And I think that that's a gameplay choice that the designer makes as they calibrate the systems. So really, we know what Garrus has been doing all this time. It wasn't the gun he was calibrating. Sorry, I'm playing a lot of Mass Effect Andromeda right now. And so anyway, so just like how when you start with an RPG, like, there's usually like 500 numbers, and you're like, which stat am I supposed to buy up if I want to play a rogue? Like, so it's the same thing. So our goal is to introduce all these systems, but to make the introductory experience smooth enough so that you feel encouraged to optimize rather than punished for not knowing what's going on. I suppose I could add that to the UX goals. I think all games pick how much handholding they want to do. So it's like here, it's sort of like, it's like here we think we've given you enough time and space to learn about the system, and this is where a really good tutorial comes in, or a really good introductory set of challenges, which is essentially like a tutorial, just not explicit, so that by the time that you've learned it, by the time you're being really challenged, like, it should feel earned. Like, it shouldn't feel like the game is just beating you down, because it can. Because, I mean, like, you totally could do that. You could just turn the numbers and all the monsters to, like, 2,000, and that would be the end of it. It does mean the game gets harder. Like, I mean, insofar as the game is more complex. Every system we add makes the game more complex. But I honestly think that that's okay, because right now Stonehearth is pretty chill. Like, it might just be me, because I've been playing it every day for 4 years, but, like, I can kind of, like, lean back and sit and click, and, like, it's fine. But, like, it doesn't ever... Okay, I take that back. Today, I started a new build, just like you should all start a new build, because the new build just went out on Steam, and I re-rolled all my people until every single person had a pet, and then I didn't pick the food for days option, and then I started in a, like, really seriously hilly region next to 4 berry bushes, and all the pets died. So, alright, every now and then it challenges me. Maybe don't do that. Or maybe farm for more food. We will like, Richard actually checked in a change after all of my pets died, so that the pets don't eat as much food as they used to. Anyway. Yes. By the way, if you didn't realize, with this new update, there's actually a trait that will allow your Hearthling to start with a pet. So yes. That's actually pretty exciting. And that is thanks to Justin, actually, who implemented that feature. Yeah, so if they have the, like, there's a certain trait that looks like a wolf's paw, and, they can start with a rabbit or a raccoon or a rabbit or a raccoon or a, squirrel, I think? Yeah. So it's pretty cool. And again, thank Justin. He worked super hard on that last week. Yeah, so can't leave now. Alright, good night, Joe Maxro. That was really all I wanted to say about pets. Just to say that the game does still challenge me every now and then. I was very surprised. I was very surprised that that was in there. Are the pets any different from the Trapper pet system? Well, they start with you, and they're attached to that one person, and that one person will get super, super, super sad if their pet is killed or dies of starvation, for example, because you're me and you didn't make a farmer and have that happen. We want to do more with the Trapper and the starting pets, but other than that, at the moment, they're just very decorative and affect mood a little bit. Okay, so yes, so adding more systems makes the game more complex. It should require you to think more while you're playing it, especially the first time. But I think on the whole that's a good thing, because right now all of our systems are not knit together, and it leaves me feeling kind of like it's like, oh, the cake was tasty but not filling, if that makes sense. Okay, sounds kind of like a detriment. Yeah, so they'll be adorable and eat all of your food, and they'll make you sad if you lose them. On the plus side, one thing that we want to do in an upcoming update, though perhaps not in the next couple weeks, is make it so that when you have interactions with your pets, you get happy. But that is actually waiting. Remember I told you that in Alpha 22 we want to make an update to the conversation system, so that's waiting on that update. So right now the conversation system is a little bit hard-coded, and so if we make this update to it, it'll allow us to have conversations not just between Hearthlings, but between Hearthlings and animals that kind of happens already, but that have effects on the game. So anyway, if you don't want this trait, you can roll until you do not have people with this trait. It doesn't come up that often. All pet food production campaign coming up. Yeah, Richard was talking about how we should really have that kibble in the game that we were crafting some time ago. And then it's like only pets can eat the kibble, and like it lasts forever, which makes total sense to me. But anyway, right, so crafting stations must show their efficiency stat somehow, so that you know you're supposed to optimize it. So let's just do a brainstorm of all the like possible locations to show this. I realized I did not make this into a so it's like, no, I don't actually want to show this in all these different places. Alright, possible locations. On unit frame. Possible indicators. So, star rating system starts with 3, can add more stars as we add more ways to be efficient. Verbal rating system. Poor, average, excellent, masterful. So like, it's like, how do you want to say it? You know what would be really cool is if like whatever you had, you like hovered over it and you got like a little like tiny little story about like why this station was like the most ultimate station ever. Star rating, verbal rating system, numbers. No, let's not expose the number. See you, Joe Maxro. Star points, 10 of 10. Like, I think 10 of 10 gets to numbers, so let's not do that. Bar, so like, you know, allows for greater, fineness. Like the bar rating, but if you use percentages, the percentage rating could go down if you like then later add more, like increase the cap on how many things you have. Okay. Which could be really frustrating. Will the bunny statue do something one day? Yes, definitely. I really want it to do something, so I really hope it'll do something one day. Stars should start at 1 or 2 based on Hearthling stats. So I think that's kind of interesting because, like, this star rating is for the bench, not for the actual interaction. So the hearthling doesn't actually have anything to do with this, unless you say that maybe there's a quality, like the workbench itself has a quality that is the result of the workbench it was made on and the crafter it was made with, who made it. Okay, but I like these two. I think these two are probably likely, unless you guys have something else. Okay, possible locations. The most likely location is going to be at the top of the workshop window when you open the window from the station. On the unit frame of the station. In some other mode when you're placing over near the station as you place the item. The other thing we could do is we could augmentations. So like, what are some things that would make the system better? For example, on hover, tooltip shows recommended. Tooltip shows you know, this is actually something different. So P1, I think, but it might be a P0, 0/1, P1, 0, P.5. Crafting station should show which things augment it and suggest how to No, that's a P0. The crafting station must be able to indicate to you what things are augmenting it. And as a P1, the crafting station should hint at what you can do to augment it. So this is like, hey, do these other things, but this is super necessary. You just plant carrots in front of your bunny statues. So far, none of them have fallen on top of your hearthlings. That's super, super, super cute. Okay, let's see. Lowest has it only a segment, and as you add, more segments fill out. A single start at the lowest. So, Gaming Silver Nox, please. A single star at the lowest, right? And then as you add, more segments fill out. Oh, I suppose you could also have an icon. Like, you could update the icon of the crafting. Update the icon to show poor, average, excellent. You could, this is a bad idea, surround the workbench with cube knitters of different colors that indicate awesomeness. Like, this makes me think of like when you have this is perpetually surround. Distracting. However, okay, so crafting station should show what things augment it. Crafting station should hint at what you can do to augment them. P0. Actually, this is a P1. No. no, P0. Crafting station should celebrate when it goes up a level. So, like, shower of cube knitter sparkles. Notification in the window. Oh god, more cube knitters. I think this is the problem, right? When you have a VFX engine that only does one thing, like, the temptation is to use it everywhere. Oh, it makes sense to me that a crafter would form a relationship with their bench as they use it over a long period of time. That actually is pretty cool. Here, I will add that here as a comment. So... really lovely. Okay. This is just like how, like, it's like if you pet your Nintendog a lot, or if you're playing Animal Crossing and you water the flowers a lot, like there's sparkles everywhere. Like, they're very rewarding, but they're also kind of distracting, so, like, you know, pros and cons. Okay, so the crafting station should show which things augment it. That is required. So this is, so okay, so notification window. No, so many. Like, when people level up, like, I get annoyed, because, I don't know, like, they seem to level up a lot, and sometimes I'm in the middle of something else, and, like, yeah. But you should still, like, it should tell you somehow, but maybe just, like, a little one instead of a full one. Notification alert, maybe, with option to zoom. Possible location. So this is actually, like, this is at the part where I think it's quite exciting and quite difficult. So for example, we could add another tab that only when the window comes up from the workbench that shows augmentations relevant to that workbench. By the way, we need to ask what happens aside. What happens when there's a workstation, when there's a crafter that uses multiple workstations? For example, the weaver. I think it's very special that to make, like, armor, you need all 3 workstations, and you actually visibly, like basically if a workstation if a workstation looks like it is interactable, it should be. Like, you should have to do a part of your crafting there. Like, that's a different system than this, but in other words, see the crafter move from station to station. We should not turn the spindle loom into decoration. They should continue. However, maybe we should do recursive crafting so that you can queue one piece of armor and automatically get the fabric and thread queued, and then so you can see the crafter moving from one station to another. Right, so the Workbench character sheet shows traits and bonuses. That's good too. No. Okay, so fine, yes. Like it is totally a good idea, and I'm sad because the Workbench already has so much UI associated with it. But yes, let's just do that. We add another tab only when the Workbench comes up to the crafting UI. It shows augmentations relevant to that Workbench. Add a separate icon to the Workbench unit frame that brings up a character sheet for the Workbench that shows options. Okay, and then hints can appear wherever in any UI. So like, if this is a P1, right? So like, if we had these, then like add another tab that hints, like add more light. So the benefit of this first one is that it's part of the existing UI, but you will not see it when you click on the crafter or when you go through the workshop menu. Oh geez, maybe there's a way. I hate this. Okay, you could also say, from the main crafting UI menu, have a list of all the workbenches or when clicking on a crafter, have a list of all workbenches and all their augmentations. If the UI comes up from a workbench, then only that workbench is highlighted in that tab of the UI. Yeah, okay. I actually like this ever so slightly better than these other two, except that I don't know if it will be discoverable. Okay, but alright, cool. So those are all UI solutions. Finally, alternate workbench optimization game mode, game view. So it's sort of like that you get to while clicking a button in the UI that, like harvest view or build view, that annotates the workbench in the world with lines of light that connect it to all the things that augment it, badges that connect it to the things that augment it. So for example, unit frame, 2 buttons, open workshop and see augmentations, which maybe also brings up the character sheet, who knows. But you click on see augmentations and then you immediately go into like Stonehearth's like harvest view or like planning view or building view, you know, the one where the ground has grids on it. And then the workbench suddenly then gets a bunch of doodads. For example, it could get a bunch of toasts that said, hey, these are the 3 things around me that are relevant. like in toasts, or you could get lines of light that connect that workbench to those other things, or other things that augment the workbench light up when you hover over the workbench. How long is the stream? We're gonna be winding down soon, because this is a lot to think about. It's a lot to chew on. So usually when writing specs like this, it's good to start really early, in this case like months early, and then slowly like decide which of these things feels more right. And I'm glad that you guys can participate, because honestly, UX is like one of those things that is much better when a lot of people help you brainstorm, because like you guys all play the game, so you know what feels good or what doesn't feel good, and it just makes this entire process easier and more enjoyable when you guys help out like this. So this is why, of all the things that I could work on, what I wanted to work on in my stream today. Okay, so this alternate workspace augmentation view becomes much more important in just a bit, because at some point you're going to have to attach the workbench to stuff around it, right? Or you're gonna have to attach other things to the workbench. But we haven't even gotten there yet. So like, Workshop is in Steam Workshop. We have not actually ever integrated with Steam Workshop. I think I've tried twice. Both times it seemed really involved, and I was like, ooh, this seems like more time than I want to commit right now. And the reason for that is that we think the game is actually pretty moddable as it is. We realized that with Steam Workshop support, maybe you could just click a button and then the mods would like come to you. But for the moment, it's just been not part of the core things that we want to work on. Okay, so, right. So let's just do this last thing, which is about how to attach the support items. So this, I think, like I said, this line, players can alter which table of support item is affecting if multiple items are indicated. So all of this is actually just about, hey, how do you tell people that there is something going on with the crafting table? Like, it doesn't even tell you how to use the support items yet, but we should have another one, which is, when an item is a support item, it should clearly state this in its description. So, possible locations, on the recipe, it should say what kind of bench it supports. On the unit frame, it should say what kind of workbench it supports. P0. When placing a support item, you should be able to attach it to a workbench via the UI. When placing a workbench, you should be able to attach it to support items. Okay, this is actually a P1. I'm not sure if this is probably, yeah, we'll probably need this, but it could be a P1. Okay, so this is the thing that is really important. So how does this work? I imagine that this one feature by itself will require like weeks of work in the renderer. But okay, let's see. So crafting tables can be assisted by a certain number of support items. Right, okay, so augment it. So the thing about augmentations is it makes like I said, I've been playing a lot of Mass Effect Andromeda. So Like, it makes perfect sense when you're augmenting your weapon. Like, okay, there's only a certain number of mod slots in this gun, so I'm gonna put a mod here, here, and here. And then you can sort of see, oh hey, my gun has like 3 sockets and I can put three things in it. But a workbench isn't really like a thing. It's more like it's important that the metaphor be right. So it's like, it's more like your crafter can only benefit from so much stuff around you. But maybe, or just like the workbench only has a certain amount of space around it. But then if we did that, all the workshops would look the same. So that's why it's more like, oh, line of sight and within a certain range, as opposed to being like, hey, the workshop is 7 by 7, and then that would like change the number of things that could be placed in that space. What song is this? Children of the Forest. Right. So there would be a large number of items, or would it be pretty limited? Let's start limited. That way we can vet that the system works. Oh, hey, Wise 2007. It is good to see you. Okay, so, right. Crafting station. No, right, this. Okay, so, like, it's like, what does it even mean if the workbench has a number of slots? Like, but anyway, alright. Support items. The workbench can be assisted by a number of support items. So, then I can craft the weapon and use a mod expander. Oh yes, right, there's Namumu back there. There's also a Baron, and Squishables, and Tibbers. Tibbers is keeping company with the Squishables, I guess. These were all brought over from Riot's headquarters in LA by Weston, who helped us set up this awesome stream room. So thank you, Weston, and thank you for the cool swag. Yes. Right. Okay, so, where are we going with this? The crafting station, right. Okay, so these items are separated into 3 crafting categories, yep. I think that should be self-evident from when you see it. Right, so this thing should show which things augment it. And how many empty support slots are still available for augmentation. All support items provide this fixed bonus, so that's cool. A support item is any item that has a crafting yep. Every support item can only benefit a single table. A support item that is not currently... So this is like different from light, because you can imagine that if you put a really big torch in the middle of a big room, it would affect everything in the room. But, okay, cool. So this is just specifically support items. Like inspiration items. A support item that is not currently supporting a table will automatically support one should a table appear in range. If multiple tables are in range, it'll prefer to support the oldest table. Okay. Okay, so this is what I mean, or this is totally the key statement here. So when an item is a support item, when placing a support item, it will support by default when you place it. The support item in the ghost placement screen, and then P0. After having placed a support item, you should be able to change what workbench it supports. If there is no target table, it should encourage you to place a table nearby. After having placed a support item, you should be able to change what workbench it supports. P0. After, and then when placing a workbench, you should see what support items will automatically attach to it. P0, P1, P0. After having placed the workbench, you should be able to reassign or detach or add support items. Able to edit the support items that support it. So this is add new, add support item that is supporting another bench, or change the target of an existing support item from another bench to you. Release an item that automatically attached, and attach an item that didn't attach, was too far to attach by default, or didn't attach because some other closer item attached itself first. Okay, so you can see why this is super interesting, because if we do this badly, you will be swimming in a sea of attachment menus, just like assigning bed ownership, and if you have multiple items that attach to multiple places, you will just go crazy. I will just go crazy using this UI. So let's preserve my sanity and make sure that this makes sense. So, possible locations. Okay, italics, copy. A really terrible UI that... Okay, let's try. Put item down. Click on UI in unit frame of ghost. Get panel that shows all possible, that shows default associations like bed ownership. I'm cringing inside like bed ownership UI, and all possible associations in range, and then you can attach de-attach stuff like the way you add people to parties. Barf. Okay, functional, but unhappy. As you drag the item, the stuff it will automatically attach to lights up. As you drag the item, there is a halo around it, around yeah, Yaman. As you drag the item, there's a halo around the ghost that shows you the range of items that can be affected based on oldest algorithm. Okay. I hope Riot treats you well. Yes. We are being treated very well, as you can see from this stream room. I think really working in comfort, this is hilarious. Thank you, Ultimate Kenny. I find it funny because before we were bought by Riot, like, we were a starving startup. Like, we bought all of our own food from Costco, and oftentimes we had no heat, and in the summer we had no AC. And it was just like, it was, you know, we had all this artistic freedom and physical deprivations. And after we got bought by Riot, they're mostly very interested in leaving us with our artistic freedom. They're very interested in leaving us with our artistic freedom. We're very different from League of Legends, and they're like, hey, you clearly know what you're doing, go do your thing. But we have now things like snacks and painted rooms and sound bafflers. I used to actually have to sit here in a cage of cardboard boxes to baffle the sound when I was making Desktop Tuesday, because the windows would reflect the noise back at me and everything would echo, and they installed these like bafflers, and like, now this is awesome. So thank you, we are being treated very well. That stuff could be inspired by the Anno 2005 upgrade systems. We should take a look, actually. Right. And Ultimate Kenny says, it's the line of sight bit that gets me. I'm having trouble seeing the interaction from an in-world perspective. Yeah, it would have to calculate that for you. So it's sort of like, hey, don't call me Shirley. It has been a while, man. Wow. Welcome back. I am wrapping up, unfortunately, but I'm glad to see you. But anyway, okay, right. So the line of sight stuff. Getting to that in a sec. So hail around the ghost that shows you the range of items that can be affected, based on line of sight rules, which, okay, so barf, you put the item down, you click no, right? Okay, so better, you put the item down, the ghost appears. The ghost appears. There's a tape measure that there's a node at the base of the ghost that connects it to the bench it's snapped to by default. That issues a line of light or a line of ants. VFX, help! Mally! That connects it to the bench that it's snapped to by default. You click on the end point of the node and drag it to another workbench, but you can only drag within the range of the item and the line of sight rules. If you don't drag, the light retracts and the object stops augmenting the workbench. The tricky thing here is like, is this visualization just like constantly going? Like, whenever the ghost or item is selected, you can see a resonance. VFX again! Between it and the item it augments. A line of light, sparkles, that item is lit up better. Yes. Okay. That could be cooler. Could you make them be adjacent to the upgradable table instead of making costly loss? Explain some more? I mean, you could certainly put this down adjacent, and then, like, if it snaps to oldest, it might not snap to that, because there might be an older table beside it. You might also argue that it should snap to newest, because probably it's your cooler table and you want that augmented, but anyway, that's a different thing. Okay, so after having placed the support item, you should be able to change what workbench it supports. Possible locations. Click the item, and this automatically puts you in build tool mode, and you can manipulate the node at the base of the item. A tool appears at the base of the item, and you can... There is VFX that connects this item to the thing it augments, and you can redistribute, and you can release the connection or attach to some new item by clicking that item, or drag by clicking that item instead. It sticks to your mouse and you click on another workbench. Okay, cool. Use a UI similar to the one described above. So when placing a workbench, same thing. Same options as above. Either a Halo UI at the base, or open the worksheet UI that shows the existing augmentations. So this is like same options as above. If Halo UI, you are manipulating nodes around the base of the workbench. If regular UI, yeah, if the crafter dies while their work is in progress, this happens. Here, you can read it while I finish typing this. Regular UI, then you do the same shuffle there as on the menu screen. So, like, the reason that this is so frustrating, or not frustrating, but cool, it's an opportunity, right? Because I can just tell you, just looking at this, that with this barf option, like, I could probably build this in a day, 2. Like, we could reuse the code that's already in the party attachment, and that would be super simple, right? This would be so much cooler, but it'll take both, one engineer could build this in a day. This would be probably so much cooler, but it would take an engineer and an artist, both maybe 2 weeks each. So it's like, what would you like? Would you like the thing that is shiny and beautiful, or would you like the thing that's effective, but cheap and kind of a hassle? And this is the great trade-off of user experience. Like, I mean, this is good. Sometimes you're in a place where all you have is barf, and like, you're just like, why is my life so painful all the time? And you can't even dream of more. So anyway, alright, so I think this is a pretty good place to leave this at the moment. It is 7:30, and we've been hanging out for about an hour and a half. Thank you guys so much for all of your ideas with regards to how this would be. I'm just gonna let this UI sort of like, this isn't even how it would look or how it would act. This is, the point of this document is just to explore the possibility space, because if you can eliminate possibilities at this point, then you don't have to draw all the pictures, and then, you know, you can save a lot of work. So it's really cool to do the brainstorming at this point. And I really appreciate all of your help with it, because it makes it a lot better and it makes it a lot more complete when another pair of eyes is, and another set of brains is thinking about how this could work well and how this could like be terrible. Okay, it has been a pleasure. Thank you guys so much. I love streaming. I love hanging out with you all. Hopefully next week we should have another stream, this one from the fantastic Ali Strom, who has been painting some beautiful things. Xpain, thank you for popping in and saying that you love the game. It means a lot to us. Sometimes it's kind of tiring. I've been working on this game for 4 years now. I love it. I love the game deeply, but it really is an energy booster to meet and talk with people here on the stream, at PAX in person, wherever on our discourse, to see how you guys are actually playing the game, because then it actually feels like it's alive, as opposed to this thing that you pour an endless amount of your life into and you're like, I hope you're cool. I can no longer tell if you're cool because I see you every day. You know, so thank you. Much appreciated. Monster 1317, the best way to support the game is to hang out with us and give us your feedback. Like, one of the reasons that we're developing it in early access is so that we can make sure that it continues to resonate with all of you as we add features. So play the game a lot, and when you find things that you think are cool, post them to Discourse. When you find improvements you'd like to make, post them to Discourse, or let us know here on the chat, or send us a PM or anything. We just really like hearing from you. And if you are creatively inclined, you are absolutely more than welcome and invited to make a mod for Stonehearth. We really love those too. Or even make a beautiful template and post it to us. Like, you know, post it to other people so they can use it. Contribute back to the game by making beautiful things in it and sharing those with other people. All right. Thank you for being part of it, Ultimate Kenny. Bye, Coasters Paul. Bye, everyone. It's good to see you all. Bruno Supremo says, has anything changed with mix-ins? You're having a bug in your mod with one of those. We haven't changed anything explicitly, but we did add 3 new engineers, remember, in the last 3 months, so it is very possible. And also, Albert has, like, you know, been kind of feeling gross recently, and so, like, who knows what his state of mind is when he's checking in. Sorry, Albert, I'm picking on you. But we've actually all been kind of sick, too, like, all this travel, and, like, there's a really terrible cough going around the office, and I was like, oh, you know, why is everyone sick? Like, they're all so weak, and then I got sick, and it was like, this is the most terrible cough ever! Oh my god, I can't breathe! But anyway, yeah, so it's very possible we may have broken something. Let us know what it is that you're having trouble with, and we'll see if we can't look into it. Okay, thank you guys! Always good to see you. Please enjoy the version of the game that we just put up onto Steam Unstable. If there's anything wonky, please let us know as soon as possible, so that we can make sure to go in and fix that. Alright. I will let this go for a little while so that Twitch does not just, like, you know, cut off on all of you. But I really enjoy hanging out, as always.